Welcome one, welcome all to the podcast where we focus on your future, present and past athletes. This is 2020 Vision. Hello and welcome to episode 14 of 2020 Vision. On this week's episode, we have a magnificent man, a man that has done so much for the sport of athletics, a man that has achieved so much individually. I welcome you all to Steve Moneghetti. Steve Moneghetti, I thank you very much for joining me on my podcast, 2020 Vision. May I say firstly, before we start, you were the first ever name I reckon I was told in regards to athletics growing up. My dad was from Ballarat, and he always told me about the wondrous things you used to do around Lake Wendouree. So, yeah, I have to thank you before we begin.
No worries, that's a nice compliment. So it means I'm old, probably. If you're relating father stories, it probably means I'm a generation removed, but it's nice to talk to you, George.
Well, he always used to compare himself to you in regards to the run that he did around. I think he did it 26 minutes, so you could probably beat that. I'm guessing. What was your time around Lake Wendouree?
Yeah, a little bit quicker than that. 16:10 is the long-standing record, but I ran one of them. You know, I'm a pretty modest guy, but I was very happy because I grew up just a couple of minutes on the Wendouree side of Lake Wendouree, and so it sort of was something I always wanted to achieve. And for one time in my life, Jordan, I ran that 16:10, and it was far quicker than even I'd run before. So when I crossed the line, I was surprised that I'd run that fast and content because I knew I never had to run another lap of lake because I'd done the best as I ever could run. And it's very satisfying when you can do that with something because Lake Wendouree, there's no shortcuts, obviously, because it's a lake. So it will always be there, and to know I ran fast, and I'm happy with that, and closed that sort of file of my racing is a good feeling.
No, that's good, especially on home turf. For those that don't know, can you tell us how far it is around Lake Wendouree?
Do you want to know exactly? It's about 5,940 metres, so we call it 6K, but
yeah,
it's a little bit short. And on that one particular day, you can really only break the lap of the lake record at the official Ballarat Regional Centre lap of the lake. And we take shortcuts. So we actually, normally when you're running a lap of the lake, you just run on the path. But that particular day, we go inside a cafe, we sort of cut corners, we jump over tree roots to get around the shortest possible way because you want to get every second you possibly can.
So is that where you start? You would have started around Ballarat area with your running, am I correct?
I did, yeah. I'm born and bred here and still here. In fact, I'm standing in the main boulevard of Ballarat, the beautiful boulevard that is Sturt Street. So where else would you want to be? It's a beautiful place to live. It's a bit chilly in the winter, but as I tell people, it's a great place to be a distance runner because you have plenty of forest, Lake Wendouree in the middle, and a great history here of distance running. So it's a great place to grow up, and I'm sure, I'm not from a running family, but there was always a running culture here in Ballarat. We've had the Harriers, as it was historically Hares and Hounds in England, and the Harriers clubs here. We had 5 clubs when I was growing up. Now one of those is merged with another club, and there's 4. So that strong distance, cross-country Harriers culture was certainly a part of why I started running, and thank God I did. So, what was the first memory that you have of running around Ballarat then? Well, I went out to my first race. I kind of was running a little bit at school, but I was more from a cricketing family and played a bit of footy here in Ballarat. As all kids in the 70s grew up, 60s and 70s grew up doing. My next door neighbour happened to be a cross-country runner, so I went out with him to Lake Wendouree, which is about 20 minutes west of Ballarat, and we had a cross-country race out there, and something happened that I just loved that environment, and I've been running ever since. So I've hardly missed a day since, to be honest. It's a strange sort of circumstance. It was just a natural thing for me to do, and I really enjoyed the environment out there, the social side of it, and I still do, and it's a pleasure to be able to still do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So you're still obviously kicking around, running. What was your latest race like for you?
So I ran Gold Coast 10K and ran 33.25 or something. I think I was third in the race, third female. So that's about where I'm at. So I try to keep the women honest. That's where I'm at.
Third female. I like how you're keeping like that, mate.
Well, you've got to set your own challenges, and it's all relative. I'm running personal worst every run, so I've got to have these little targets and little positive achievements out of my run, and I love what I do, and I actually love the competitive side of racing. I'm actually hoping to run a 15k state title here in Ballarat tomorrow. So if all things pan out, I've got a few things happening, but I hate having other things on the day I race, but I'm hoping that I can organise myself to still get to that race. So I love the competitive aspect of running, and we've seen a real boom in recreational running, which is great to see for people, finding the sport that I love. But I also try to encourage people to, have personal challenges, and races allow you to do that. Whilst, I won a few races, I always still wanted to make sure that I compared them against what I thought was my best on that particular day. So I like that personal challenge that racing in running provides.
Well, just know that you're always beating those race walkers while you're running.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's some of those guys out there are going pretty fast.
They're very good. We've got one of the best in the world here in Ballarat. He actually walks and was running for the club, Ballarat YCW, Jared Talents.
Yes, familiar with Jared.
It's great history here too.
No, that's beautiful, mate. Well, let's start talking about your history. You do have a couple of Olympic Games under your belt. Do you mind starting with your first experience as an Olympic athlete?
So I kind of had a quick transition. It was only my third marathon, to be honest, because I kind of hopped into the marathon accidentally at the Commonwealth Games in '86, and that I ran well there, and I went to the World Championships next year. So and that allowed me, my good run there in Rome allowed me to get to Seoul in only my third marathon. So it happened quite quickly for me. But what I do remember is coming back into the stadium and realising from that moment on that I could call myself an Olympian, and I've kind of grown up wanting to run an Olympic marathon, and the reality of coming back into the stadium in Seoul and running that last lap and crossing the finish line meant that, I was forever, realised a dream that I'd set myself when I started running. So, you don't ever think you're going to go to any Olympics, let alone for me to go to four. So that first one's always a very special memory because, it's the first one and you remember it for all the right reasons. It's probably a personal challenge that you set yourself, and you can, tick that off and be happy.
That's an amazing that you could. Not many people can say I've been to 4 Olympics. That's 16 years there. So I'm just wondering. So is that your favourite experience, the first, or obviously it continued to the next Olympics? Do you mind telling us about that?
Yeah, I was pretty lucky, George. To be honest, I bookended my Olympic experience. My first one was special because you don't ever think you're going to another one. But my last one was pretty good because it was my last marathon for Australia. I retired at the Sydney Olympics. So, gee, doesn't get any better than that. I can tell you that, whilst I skipped the two in between, I had a bad experience in Barcelona in '92, and then I got back. I ran pretty well in Atlanta in '96. I think I was 6th or 7th. I can't exactly remember. Isn't it terrible where you can't remember where you finished an Olympic marathon? But it was 6th or 7th. I think it was 6th, I'm pretty sure. And then, so that was a good result. And funnily enough, I'd had one good experience in '88 and one bad experience in '92. So '96 was quite important because if I had a bad one then, I never went to another one. It would have been 2 bad Olympics, 1 good. So it's nice to lean the legend my way in Atlanta, and then to finally finish my career running the Olympic marathon in my home country and running out to Homebush. And that last lap, I'll never forget the reaction when I ran into the stadium. It was pretty special. That roar, had my family there, and it was just a really special personal moment.
It's just it's an amazing feeling. I'm getting that sort of feeling from what you're saying, the description and everything. And I personally want to congratulate you on your efforts. I was only 5 at the time, but it's amazing to see.
You are aging me quickly, Jordan.
Oh, I apologise. Well,
man. I'm sure you mean that in a backhanded compliment type of way.
Of course I do.
I think that's a great thing about the marathon and distance running is, if it was the Olympic 100 metres, it'd be over before you knew it, and you're all sort of nervous, and it's all about how you get your start sweat. Whilst the Olympic marathon, the marathon event's long and can be very tough on your body, you do at least get to enjoy that last part of the event. And even, if you've run a marathon, I talk to people who run a marathon, it's very satisfying to know that you're approaching that finish line. You can suck up the atmosphere, atmosphere, realise that all the hard work that you put in's paid off, and just enjoy that moment. So finishing a marathon's a very, very special experience, and people out there listening who have finished one know exactly what I'm talking about.
I haven't quite yet gone to the marathon. I've been drinking too much Farmers Union iced coffees, if you're familiar with those. I do have a question in regards to your thought process going through the marathons, because obviously you said you've got that last part where you can think. What are we doing in the first part? Is there any mantras that you're saying to yourself, or how does it work for you?
I try to. You want to just tick off those early kilometres without using up too much energy. So you're almost sort of, getting through. I used to almost run them as laps of the Lake Wendouree, because being 6K around, it was like 7 laps of the lake. So I'd sort of run the first lap and kind of go, oh, that's one, we're just getting into our work, and then I'd get into the next lap and think, okay, am I sparing my energy well? And then, once you're through the third lap, you're starting to get into your work. So I used to break it up into those different stages. In the first part of the race, all you're doing is trying to spare your glycogen so that you know when you're going to need that when you're fatigued in the second half of the event, that you're maximising the use of that. So you're just trying to get away with the kilometres early on in the event, to be honest.
And obviously, you've said with the 2000 Olympics, you knew that you had your family in the audience, and did you expect that cheer in the end, or is that what pushed you along?
To be perfectly honest, I wasn't even conscious of that until I got to the stadium. It's funny that in a marathon, people often ask me, do you have a conversation? What do you think about all the event and all that stuff? You are so concerned. We're running at 20 kilometres an hour. You're worried about your breathing, your body, physically, how you're coping, parts of the course, how your pace is, where the next drink station is, what the last kilometre was, what's up in front of you. So by the time you kind of worry about all of those things, you don't really want to get distracted about things you can't control. And when you get to that stadium, for me, if there was no one in the stadium, I've still got to worry about getting my body across around that last lap to finish the race that I started. So you kind of worry about just the things you can control, and you get a bit sort of focused on the event itself. But so it was a little bit of a surprise, and you can't sort of let yourself celebrate too much because you've still got a job to do, and you're getting pretty fatigued by that last few minutes. So, but I took the moment to really suck it up because I knew I wasn't going to be experiencing it again, and I was in pretty good shape, so I could enjoy it. I'm just
excited for you in the sense that you got to finish on home turf. How did you deal with the naysayers in regards to your in regards to your runs? Was there any bad people saying bad things towards you?
Yeah, not really so much. I mean, I had a very consistent career, so I was always open and transparent with my running. So I told it like it was, and I found that people judged me accordingly. So if there were people who had negative things to say, I took it in the right spirit, and I was open and honest with that and took it on board, and I might have an argument or a bit of argy-bargy with them, but at the end of the day I respected their views and their thoughts on it. I often didn't agree with them, but I certainly didn't take that as a negative. In fact, I tried to either have a conversation with them to change that around, or I took it on board and used it as a learning experience. So, often it's interesting, Jordan, if people are commenting on you, whether it be negative or positive, at least they are genuinely showing some interest in what you're doing. So at the end of the day, the fact that they're actually engaging is a positive thing in itself.
No, that is correct. I do have to ask, is there any words of advice that you would offer to young up-and-coming athletes, or not even athletes in a sense, but people that are trying to make it in whatever thing that they're doing in their life?
Yeah, one thing I certainly would say is enjoy the moments of success and achievement. I was always, I had a particular episode where I ran a world best for a half marathon. It was slightly downhill, so it's kind of not what was recognised at the time. And 2 weeks later, I was running in the Berlin Marathon. So I didn't get, there's a lot of press about breaking the world record, and I tried to keep a lid on it because I had to focus about this event I was running in 2 weeks' time, which ended up, I won and it all went really well. But I look back and I didn't really appreciate how fast I ran. To run faster than anyone that ran for a half marathon, I couldn't really enjoy that moment as much as I look back now and think I should have, because I was thinking, no, just keep a lid on it. I've got this race in a couple of weeks' time. I can't enjoy this. I've got to focus on making sure I recover and get out of it, keep it all in perspective. So I try to tell people now that if those moments come along in your life, really just take a moment to appreciate it. Take a sort of a mental picture of it, so that when you are having tough times or you need to relate it to family, friends, children, then you've got a snapshot and a picture that you can relate to them. Exactly what I'm doing to you with things like the Seoul Olympics, running into that stadium, finishing my marathon, seeing the Olympic flame, treasuring that flame and realising that from that day on I could officially call myself an Olympian. Those little snapshots in life put into perspective the journey that you're having along the way. We've got to, like that analogy of being on a train, when you get to the station, get off and enjoy what that station provides. So having those little stations to stop at, if you just stay on the train, you don't get to appreciate what those stations can offer.
Geez, the young guy here is, if talking to you, is feeling real good about what you just said, and I appreciate it, because we do struggle as males in this generation, and I'm assuming and sure that you would have had your own issues, mental health wise and stuff like that, growing up, and I do really appreciate it personally, and I'm sure everyone listening does as well. Is there anyone?
Yeah,
oh, sorry, go on.
I think one thing that people probably don't know, I do a lot of talking and mentoring now. I had very low self-esteem and was a shy, quiet kid who was pretty hard on himself at school, and didn't think I was. I wouldn't say I thought I was worthless, but at times I didn't think I was worth a lot. And to have been able to have the experiences that I've had, has shown me that you can grow as a person, and if you appreciate the little things in life, you can get a lot more enjoyment out of the things that you do. And we should really appreciate. They only need to be simple things, and they are personal things to you. That you don't need to be on the front or back page of the paper. You don't need someone to give you a gold medal to do it, because in your own mind you have a gold medal performance. You just need to treat it as such.
Who inspired you growing up?
More people around me. So my older brother played cricket. He opened the batting for Ballarat. So I had more role models, people who I had contact with, and that, I didn't get my licence till I was 21. I had a lot of people here in Ballarat who would come round and pick us up and take us out running and take me. We went to a couple of interstate trips, and so there were club members who, I look back now, they weren't that old. I thought they were about 50. I thought they were my age now, but they were only in their 20s, and yet they were really keen on looking after us, picking me up, taking me to events, and I had a really good training pack. So that support network around me, whilst I wouldn't say I looked up to them, I really appreciated the personal effort they made to include me. And I'll tell you something, this is I've never told this to anyone, Jordan, so this is sort of a bit unusual. I hope you take it in the spirit that it's meant. I was going to the pub at 16. In those days, because what we did was we'd go to a running race, and after the cross-country running race, we'd just go down to the local pub and have a few drinks. And now, I wasn't drinking, but I was involved in that environment, and it wasn't a drinking, drunk environment. It was just a social occasion, and the inclusiveness for a kid who was just a quiet, humble kid, with not a lot of going for him, to be included in that environment at such a young age has left a really strong impression on me, and I try to be really inclusive with groups of people now for that exact reason. That's
it. I appreciate you actually saying that. That's cool. That I know. But I'm just thinking about my time in Ballarat, because I go there about twice a year. So yeah, it is a very inclusive area. Even now, there's a lot of the oldies that I see around helping out the youngsters, and definitely a good support network is good. And yeah, It's awesome the fact that you're taking your time out of the day and the things that you're saying as well. I do this not to expect much. I started it from my back room in my house, and yeah, just to be chatting with someone that has travelled all around the world, running of all things. It's just it's amazing. Do you ever think that you got where you are just by moving your feet very fast? It is
interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's a pretty simple pursuit, and sometimes, we get complicated, I get deep, I get philosophical. At the end of the day, it's just putting one foot in front of another, and until someone tells you to stop, that's all a marathon is.
Literally, yeah.
That's all running is, literally. But, I think sometimes the simple things in life are often the best, because I can tell you that, life can be busy and complicated for all of us for different reasons. And when you go for a run, you kind of delayer a bit, and you realise that at the end of the day, it's just you and the environment. Sometimes I enjoy just running out in the forest by myself so that I can get that real clarity of thought. And it takes it back to the absolute basic essence of what life's about. So sometimes I think, we underestimate how powerful the mental side of running is, and how we can use that in a really positive way.
Life is like a marathon. What part of the marathon in your life is the best, if you were to compare it in distances?
Yeah, you know what? The minute before the gun goes, because it's the anticipation, it's the excitement of where the marathon race is going to take you. It's going to challenge you, and it's going to throw up things that are going to really test your toughness, your mental toughness, your physical toughness. So I love that. It's often a difficult time just before the gun goes, because you just want to get into your work. But it's a time when you can reflect on all the preparation that you've put in to be in this position on the start line of a major race, and then the fear and excitement of the unknown that you're about to throw yourself into.
I like the answer. All right, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with your race tomorrow, of course, and everything else in your future.
I appreciate it. It's great to chat, Jordan. Thanks for taking the time.
No, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers. You
Bye.
too. See ya. Bye.
There we had my chat with Steve Moneghetti. Not only did the man compete in the Seoul Olympic Games, Barcelona, Atlanta, and of course those Sydney 2000 Games, he also succeeded in World Championships in 1997 in Athens, getting himself a bronze medal, and in the Commonwealth Games, he secured a bronze in both Edinburgh and Kuala Lumpur, silver in Auckland in 1990, and that amazing gold medal in 1994 in Victoria. We thank Steve for everything he's done for the sport of athletics. I hope to catch him sometime running around Lake Wendouree in Ballarat. I doubt it though, because the man is incredibly fast even to this day. I thank him very much for joining me. And I thank you for listening in. Make sure you tune in next week. Who knows who we're going to get. Thank you for listening to another episode of 2020 Vision. If you want to find us elsewhere, go to Podbean, YouTube, or Spotify and type in 2020 Vision. You can also find us on Facebook. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.